The sun shined bright in the clear blue sky as 12-year-old Marcus Johnson stepped into his front yard. It was the first week of summer vacation, and Marcus was happy to be free from school. He held a tennis ball in his right hand, tossing it up and catching it with a smile on his face. "Max, come here, boy," Marcus called out. The side door of the garage swung open, and a beautiful German shepherd with a shiny black and tan coat bounded toward the boy. Max was 2 years old now, strong and playful. His tongue hung from his mouth as he ran to Marcus with excitement in his eyes. Marcus lived in Oakwood Heights, a nice neighborhood with big houses and green lawns. His house was one of the biggest on Cherry Lane, with a white fence and red flowers in the garden. Marcus and his father had moved there last year after his dad got a promotion at work. "Ready to play, Max?" Marcus asked, showing the dog the tennis ball. Max barked happily and got into position, his eyes never leaving the ball. Marcus threw it across the yard, and Max took off like a rocket, his powerful legs carrying him across the grass. He caught the ball in midair with a graceful leap that made Marcus clap and cheer. "Good boy. That was amazing," Marcus shouted. Max trotted back proudly with the ball in his mouth, dropping it at Marcus's feet for another round. This was their daily routine, and both boy and dog loved every minute of it. Inside the house, pictures showed the story of their family. There were photos of Marcus as a baby with his mother and father. There were newer pictures too, just Marcus and his dad, Derek Johnson. Marcus's mother had passed away 3 years ago from cancer, and since then, it had been just the two of them. Well, 3 counting Max. Marcus picked up the ball again and threw it even farther this time. Max ran after it, his ears flapping in the wind. As the dog was running back, Marcus noticed a police car driving slowly down their street. He didn't think much of it. Police cars sometimes patrolled their neighborhood. What Marcus didn't know was that someone had called the police station earlier that day. A new neighbor who had just moved in had seen Marcus playing alone and didn't recognize him. "There's a young boy who doesn't seem to belong in this neighborhood," the caller had said. "He's hanging around one of the houses on Cherry Lane. Could be nothing, but better safe than sorry." Officer Pete Reynolds was fairly new to the police force. He had only been working in this area for about 3 months. He got the call about a suspicious person and was now driving around looking for anyone who might fit that description. When he spotted Marcus playing in the front yard of one of the nicest houses on the street, he slowed his car down. Reynolds didn't know that Marcus lived there. He didn't know that Marcus's father, Derek Johnson, was a respected FBI agent who had worked on some of the biggest cases in the state. He didn't know that Derek had bought this house to give his son a safe place to grow up after losing his mother. All Officer Reynolds saw was a young black boy he hadn't seen before, playing in a yard where he thought the boy might not belong. As Reynolds pulled his police car to the curb, Max noticed the stranger and became alert. The dog's playful demeanor changed as he sensed something was different. He moved closer to Marcus, standing by his side protectively. Marcus grabbed Max's collar, suddenly feeling nervous as the police officer stepped out of his car. The tennis ball dropped from his hand and rolled across the grass. Forgotten. This ordinary summer day was about to change everything for Marcus, Max, and everyone involved. Officer Pete Reynolds stepped out of his police car. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a serious face. His blue uniform was neat and clean, and his badge caught the sunlight as he moved toward Marcus and Max. "Afternoon," Officer Reynolds said in a firm voice. His right hand rested near his gun belt as he walked across the lawn. "Do you live here, son?" Marcus felt his heart beat faster. He had been taught to be respectful to police officers, but something about this man made him nervous. "Yes, sir," Marcus answered. "This is my house. I live here with my dad." Max sensed the change in Marcus and began to growl softly. The dog's ears were alert, and his body became tense. Marcus tightened his grip on Max's collar. "And where is your dad right now?" Officer Reynolds asked, looking at the house with doubt in his eyes. "He's at work," Marcus said. "He works for the FBI." Officer Reynolds raised an eyebrow. He had heard many stories from kids before, and he wasn't sure if he should believe this one. "The FBI? Huh," he said with a small laugh. "And what's your name?" "Marcus Johnson," Marcus replied. "My dad is Special Agent Derek Johnson." Officer Reynolds took a step closer, and Max began to bark loudly. The dog was protecting Marcus, standing between the boy and the officer. "Control your dog," Officer Reynolds said sharply, his hand now moving to rest on his gun. "He's just scared," Marcus said, trying to pull Max back. "Max, stop. Sit." But Max continued to bark. He was a trained protection dog, and to him, Officer Reynolds looked like a threat to Marcus. "I said control your dog," Officer Reynolds shouted, his face becoming red with anger. Marcus tried his best to hold Max, but the dog was strong. Max pulled hard against Marcus's grip, his barking growing louder. Mrs. Wilson, who lived next door, heard the commotion and looked out her window. She saw the police officer and Marcus with Max. She had known the Johnson family since they moved in. She quickly grabbed her phone and began to record what was happening. "Max, please," Marcus begged, tears forming in his eyes. "Sit down." Max suddenly broke free from Marcus's grip. The dog didn't attack but ran toward Officer Reynolds, barking loudly. To Max, he was defending his young owner from a stranger. Officer Reynolds saw only a large German shepherd rushing toward him. In a split second, he made a decision that would change many lives forever. He pulled his gun from his holster. "No," Marcus screamed, running after Max. The sound of 2 gunshots rang through the quiet neighborhood. The noise was so loud that birds flew from nearby trees. People came out of their houses to see what had happened. Max fell to the ground with a painful yelp. Blood began to spread across his black fur. Marcus ran to his dog, falling to his knees beside him. "Max, Max," Marcus cried, his hand shaking as he tried to touch his friend. Officer Reynolds stood frozen, his gun still in his hand. He watched as the young boy sobbed over his dog. Neighbors began to gather, some with phones recording the scene. "What have you done?" Mrs. Wilson shouted as she rushed toward them. "That's the Johnson boy. He lives here." Officer Reynolds slowly lowered his weapon. A cold feeling washed over him as he realized his mistake. The suspicious person was just a kid playing in his own yard. "I need to call an animal hospital," Marcus cried, his hands now covered in Max's blood. "Please help him." Several neighbors rushed forward to help. One man took off his shirt and pressed it against Max's wound to slow the bleeding. Another neighbor called the emergency vet clinic. Officer Reynolds took a few steps back, the reality of what he had done sinking in. He reached for his radio to call for backup. As he did, he noticed the name on the mailbox near the street, Johnson. And beneath it, in smaller letters, FBI, Special Agent. Special Agent Derek Johnson sat in a meeting room at the FBI office downtown. He wore a dark blue suit and a serious expression as he looked at files spread across the table. Derek was leading a team working on a big case, and they had been in the meeting for over 2 hours. "So we agree on the next steps," Derek said to the 5 other agents in the room. "We'll start surveillance tomorrow morning." Just as he finished speaking, his phone began to vibrate in his pocket. Derek ignored it at first. The case was important, and he didn't want to interrupt the meeting. But the phone kept vibrating again and again. After the 5th call in a row, Derek knew something was wrong. "Excuse me for a minute," he said to his team. He stepped out of the room and checked his phone. 17 missed calls, 10 text messages, all from neighbors and Mrs. Lopes, who watched Marcus after school sometimes. Derek's heart began to race as he opened the first message. It was from Mrs. Wilson next door. "Please call immediately. Emergency with Marcus and Max. Police involved." His hand shook as he called Mrs. Wilson's number. She answered on the first ring. "Derek, thank God," she said, her voice shaking. A police officer shot Max. Marcus is okay, but he's very upset. They've taken Max to the animal hospital on Main Street. What? Derek felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. How did this happen? The officer said someone called about a suspicious person. Mrs. Wilson explained. He saw Marcus playing and didn't know he lived here. When Max barked and ran toward him, he shot him. It's terrible, Derek. I recorded some of it on my phone. Derek's mind raced. His son was safe, but Max was hurt, and a police officer had pulled a gun on his property near his child. I'm coming home right now, Derek said. He ended the call and rushed back into the meeting room. I have to go, he told his team. Family emergency. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of Derek's life. He broke speed limits and ran through yellow lights. His FBI badge was on the dashboard in case he was stopped. All he could think about was Marcus. His son had already lost his mother 3 years ago. Max had helped Marcus through that painful time. The dog had been more than a pet. He was family. As Derek turned onto Cherry Lane, he saw the police cars with flashing lights. An animal control van was parked nearby. Neighbors stood in small groups, talking and looking upset. Derek parked his car and jumped out. He scanned the crowd for Marcus and spotted him sitting on the front steps with Mrs. Lopes. His son's face was red from crying, and his t-shirt had dark stains on it. Blood. Max's blood. Dad. Marcus cried when he saw his father. He ran to Derek and fell into his arms, sobbing hard. Derek hugged his son tight. I'm here now, he said softly. I'm here. Over Marcus's shoulder, Derek saw a police officer speaking with what looked like the police chief. The officer was young, maybe in his late 20s. He looked pale and worried. Is that him? Derek asked quietly. Marcus nodded against his chest. He shot Max. Dad, Max wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just barking. Derek felt a mix of emotions. Anger at the officer, fear for Max, and deep sadness for his son. Where's Max now? Derek asked. They took him to Dr. Garcia's animal hospital, Mrs. Lopes said, walking over to them. It didn't look good, Derek. He was bleeding a lot. Derek nodded, trying to stay calm for Marcus. Let's go see him right now, he said. As they walked to the car, the police chief approached them. Agent Johnson, he said. I'm Chief Roberts. I want to express how sorry we are for this incident. Derek looked at the man with cold eyes. This isn't over, he said firmly. But right now, I need to take my son to see his dog. As they drove away, Derek glanced in the rearview mirror. The young officer who had shot Max was watching them leave. For the first time, Officer Reynolds understood exactly who Marcus was and what he had done. Derek drove quickly to the animal hospital with Marcus sitting quietly beside him. The boy had stopped crying, but his face showed his pain. Every few seconds, Marcus would look down at his hands. They still had some of Max's blood on them, even though Mrs. Lopes had helped him wash most of it off. The animal hospital was a small building with bright lights. When Derek parked the car, he saw how busy it was inside. People with cats and dogs sat in the waiting area. Come on, Derek said gently to Marcus. Let's find out how Max is doing. They walked into the hospital, and Derek went straight to the front desk. The woman there looked up at them with kind eyes. I'm Derek Johnson, and this is my son Marcus, he said. Our German Shepherd Max was brought in with gunshot wounds. The woman nodded. Yes, Dr. Garcia is working on him right now. Please have a seat, and she'll come talk to you as soon as she can. Marcus and Derek sat in the waiting area. A small TV in the corner showed the local news, but neither of them paid attention to it. Marcus leaned against his father's shoulder, and Derek put his arm around him. Max is strong, Derek said, and Dr. Garcia is the best animal doctor in the city. Marcus nodded but didn't speak. His eyes were fixed on the door that led to the rooms where the animals were treated. After 30 minutes that felt like hours, a woman in a white coat came through the door. Dr. Garcia was in her 40s with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had kind eyes but a serious face as she walked toward Derek and Marcus. "Mr. Johnson," she said. "Marcus, I've been taking care of Max." "How is he?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. Dr. Garcia sat down across from them. "Max is alive, but his condition is serious. One bullet hit his shoulder, and the second bullet is lodged near his spine. We need to operate right away to remove it. Will he be okay?" Marcus asked, tears filling his eyes again. Dr. Garcia was honest but gentle. "Max is young and strong, which helps. But I need to tell you that even if the surgery goes well, he might have problems walking normally again." Marcus began to cry again. Derek held him close. "Do whatever you need to do," Derek told Dr. Garcia. "Cost is not an issue." Dr. Garcia nodded. "We'll start the surgery right away. It will take several hours. You can stay here, or you can go home and come back tomorrow morning." "We'll stay," Marcus said quickly. "At least for a while," Derek added. As Dr. Garcia went back to prepare for the surgery, Derek's phone rang. It was his boss, Deputy Director Williams. "Derek, I just heard what happened," Williams said. "It's all over the news." Derek was surprised. "Already?" "Someone posted videos online," Williams explained. "The media is calling it, 'Police officer shoots child's dog in own yard.' And now they've found out you're FBI. It's becoming a big story." Derek looked at the TV in the waiting room and saw that the local news was indeed showing blurry cell phone footage of the scene. He could see Marcus kneeling beside Max and Officer Reynolds standing with his gun. "I can't deal with that right now," Derek said quietly. "My son is devastated, and Max is in surgery." "I understand," Williams said. "Take all the time you need. The FBI stands behind you, Derek. And if you want to pursue this officially, we'll support you." After ending the call, Derek noticed Marcus was watching the TV now too. The boy's face showed a mix of sadness and anger as he saw the footage of Max being shot. "Why did he do it, Dad?" Marcus asked. "Max wasn't going to hurt anyone." Derek wished he had a good answer. He was a law enforcement officer himself. He knew about split-second decisions, but he also knew about proper training and judgment. "Some people make bad decisions when they're afraid," Derek said carefully. "But that doesn't make it right. And it doesn't mean there won't be consequences." As they waited for news about Max, the story of what had happened on Cherry Lane continued to spread across the city and beyond. By the next morning, the story had spread across the entire country. Videos taken by neighbors showed up on every news channel and social media site. People were angry and upset about what had happened to Marcus and Max. "Police officer shoots child's dog in own yard" was the headline everywhere. When people found out that Marcus was black and his father was an FBI agent, the story got even bigger. The Johnsons' phone rang all day. News reporters wanted to talk to them. People from all over sent messages of support. Some people even started sending toys and treats for Max. At the police station, things were very difficult for Officer Reynolds. The police chief had put him on leave, which meant he could not work until the investigation was done. Many people were calling for him to be fired right away. The police department put out a short statement. "We are looking into the unfortunate incident involving an officer and a dog." The officer was responding to a call about suspicious activity in the area. But this statement made people even more angry. Witnesses said Max had been barking but not attacking. The videos clearly showed Marcus was just playing in his own yard when the officer approached him. Back at the animal hospital, Derek and Marcus had spent the night in the waiting room. Early in the morning, Dr. Garcia came out to talk to them. She looked tired after the long surgery. "Max made it through the operation," she told them. "We removed the bullet that was near his spine. He's stable, but the next 48 hours are important." "Can we see him?" Marcus asked. His eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep. Dr. Garcia nodded. "Yes, but only for a few minutes. He's still under heavy medication." She led them to a recovery room where Max lay on a large padded bed. The dog was connected to machines that beeped quietly. His shoulder and back were wrapped in white bandages. Max looked much smaller and more fragile than the strong, playful dog he had been just yesterday. Marcus approached slowly and gently touched Max's head. The dog didn't move, but his chest rose and fell with each breath. "Hey, Max," Marcus whispered. "You're going to be okay. I'm here." Derek stood back, giving his son a moment with his dog. His phone vibrated with another call, but he ignored it. Right now, nothing was more important than this moment. After visiting Max, Derek took Marcus home to get some rest. As they drove down their street, they saw news vans parked nearby. Reporters with cameras and microphones stood on the sidewalk. "We'll go in through the back," Derek said, driving past their house and taking a side street that led to the alley behind their home. Inside, the house felt strangely quiet without Max. Marcus went straight to his room and closed the door. Derek knew his son needed time alone. In the kitchen, Derek finally checked his messages. His boss had called again, along with several other FBI colleagues offering support. There were also messages from civil rights groups that wanted to help. Derek sat at the kitchen table and opened his laptop. He needed to understand exactly what had happened and why. As an FBI agent, he knew how to investigate, and now he would use those skills to get justice for his son and Max. He started by watching all the videos from neighbors. Then he read the police report that Officer Reynolds had filed. There were big differences between what the report said and what the video showed. The report claimed that Max had aggressively attacked, but the videos clearly showed Max just running and barking, not biting or jumping on the officer. Derek also found the original call that had sent Officer Reynolds to their house. Someone had reported a suspicious person who didn't belong in the neighborhood. The caller had not given their name. As Derek gathered evidence, he made a promise to himself. This would not be ignored or forgotten. The truth would come out, and there would be consequences for what had happened to Max and the fear his son had experienced. Outside, more news vans arrived as the story continued to grow. 3 days after the shooting, Chief Roberts called Derek for a meeting at the police station. The building was large and gray, with police cars parked outside. As Derek walked up the steps, he straightened his tie and prepared himself for what was coming. Chief Roberts met him in a small conference room. 2 other people were there too. One was Lieutenant Garcia from Internal Affairs, the department that investigates police officers. The other was the city lawyer, Ms. Kim. "Thank you for coming, Agent Johnson," Chief Roberts said. "How is your son doing? And the dog?" "Marcus is still very upset," Derek answered. "Max is back home now, but he can't walk well. The vet says he may always have a limp." The chief nodded with a serious face. "I want you to know that we're taking this very seriously. Lieutenant Garcia is leading the investigation." Lieutenant Garcia was a woman in her 40s with short hair and sharp eyes. "We've collected all the videos from neighbors," she said. "We've also talked to Officer Reynolds and several witnesses. We're still putting everything together." Derek leaned forward. "I've watched those videos too. They show that Max was not attacking. He was barking and running, but he wasn't trying to bite." Ms. Kim, the city lawyer, spoke up. "We understand your concerns, Agent Johnson, but our officers have to make quick decisions in the field." "I'm in law enforcement too," Derek said firmly. "I know about quick decisions, but this was a bad decision. And what bothers me even more is that someone called the police just because they saw my son playing in our yard." The room was quiet for a moment. They all knew what Derek was suggesting. Someone had called the police because they saw a black child in an expensive neighborhood and assumed he didn't belong there. "We're looking into that call as well," Chief Roberts said. "The caller didn't give their name, but we're trying to figure out who it was." Derek pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "I've done some investigating myself. Officer Reynolds has had complaints before. 3 times in the last year, people have complained about him being too aggressive, especially with people of color. Lieutenant Garcia looked surprised. She picked up the folder and looked through the papers inside. "How did you get these?" she asked. "I'm an FBI agent," Derek said simply. "And this involves my son." Chief Roberts sighed. "Agent Johnson, I understand you're upset, but I need to ask you to let us handle this investigation." "I respect your process," Derek said, "but I also need you to understand something. My son is 12 years old. He was playing in our yard. A police officer approached him with his hand on his gun, and then shot his dog. Marcus will remember this for the rest of his life." Derek stood up. "I'm not just going to sit back and wait. I've already filed a formal complaint with your department. I've also spoken to the district attorney about possible criminal charges against Officer Reynolds. And yes, I am considering a lawsuit." Ms. Kim looked worried. "We hope it doesn't come to that. The city wants to resolve this fairly." "Then do the right thing," Derek said. "Officer Reynolds needs to be held accountable, and your department needs to address why a child can't play in his own yard without someone calling the police." As Derek left the police station, his phone rang. It was the animal hospital. "Mr. Johnson," Dr. Garcia said, "I wanted to let you know that people have been calling all day. They're offering to pay for Max's medical bills. One veterinary supply company is even donating a special wheelchair for dogs to help Max get around while he recovers." For the first time in days, Derek felt a small bit of hope. In the middle of this awful situation, people were showing kindness and support. Maybe some good could come from this after all. But as he drove home, Derek knew the fight for justice was just beginning. 1 week after the shooting, a local news reporter named Lisa Chen knocked on the Johnsons' front door. She had been trying to get an interview with the family since the incident happened. Derek had said no to all reporters until now. But after talking with Marcus, they decided that it might help to tell their side of the story. "Thank you for agreeing to talk with me," Lisa said as she set up her camera in the living room. "This story has touched many people across the country." Marcus sat next to his father on the couch. Max lay on a soft bed nearby, his body still wrapped in bandages. The dog could now stand up for short periods, but walking was difficult and painful. "Marcus, can you tell me what happened that day?" Lisa asked gently. Marcus looked at his father, who nodded encouragingly. "I was just playing with Max in our yard," Marcus said. "We were throwing the tennis ball. Then a police car stopped, and the officer came over. He asked if I lived there, and I told him yes." Marcus's voice got quieter. "Max was barking because he was trying to protect me. I tried to hold him, but he got away. He ran toward the officer, still barking. Then the officer shot him. Twice." Lisa turned to Derek. "As an FBI agent, what do you think about how this situation was handled?" Derek chose his words carefully. "There was no reason for Officer Reynolds to approach my son in the first place. Marcus was just playing in our yard. And there was definitely no reason to shoot Max. The dog was barking, not attacking." "Do you think race played a role in this incident?" Lisa asked. "Someone called the police because they saw a black child in this neighborhood and assumed he didn't belong here," Derek said. "And Officer Reynolds chose to approach a 12-year-old boy with his hand near his gun. Yes, I believe race was a factor." The interview continued for 30 minutes. Marcus talked about how Max had helped him after his mother died. Derek explained that he wanted the police department to make changes in their training and policies. "What changes would you like to see?" Lisa asked. "Better training on when to use force," Derek said. "Clear rules about approaching children. And most importantly, officers need to understand that not everyone who looks out of place is doing something wrong." After the interview, Lisa filmed Max trying to walk across the living room. The dog moved slowly, his back legs not working properly. But his tail wagged when Marcus encouraged him. The next evening, the interview played on the local news. By morning, it was on national television. People all over the country were sharing it online. Outside police headquarters, groups of people gathered to protest. They held signs that said "Justice for Max" and "Black Children Matter." The crowd grew larger each day. The pressure on the police department became too strong to ignore. Chief Roberts called a press conference to announce their decision. After a thorough investigation, we have determined that Officer Pete Reynolds violated several department policies, the chief said to the reporters. He approached a minor without cause, escalated a non-threatening situation, and used deadly force against an animal that was not attacking him. Officer Reynolds has been terminated from the police department, effective immediately. The crowd cheered at this news, but the chief wasn't finished. Additionally, we will be reviewing and changing our policies on responding to calls about suspicious persons. We will also increase our training on community engagement and appropriate use of force. When Derek heard the news, he felt a sense of relief. This was one step toward justice, but he knew there was still more to be done. The civil lawsuit against the police department was moving forward, and most importantly, Marcus and Max had a long road to recovery ahead of them, both physically and emotionally. 3 months after the shooting, Derek and Marcus sat in a large office downtown. Their lawyer, Ms. Taylor, spread papers across the table in front of them. She was a tall woman with gray hair and glasses who specialized in civil rights cases. The police department wants to settle the lawsuit, Ms. Taylor explained. They're offering a payment of $200,000 and an agreement to make the changes we asked for. Derek looked at the papers. The money was good, but he was more interested in the changes the department had promised to make. What exactly are they agreeing to change? He asked. Ms. Taylor pointed to a section of the document. First, better training for all officers on when to use force, especially around children and animals. Second, new rules for handling calls about suspicious persons. Third, body cameras for all officers. And fourth, a community review board that will look at complaints against officers. Derek nodded. These were important changes that could help prevent what happened to Marcus and Max from happening to others. What do you think, Marcus? Derek asked his son. Marcus had been quiet during the meeting. He was stroking Max's head. The dog now wore a special harness with wheels that supported his back legs, helping him walk. Will Officer Reynolds have to say he's sorry? Marcus asked. Ms. Taylor shook her head. The settlement doesn't require that. He's already been fired from the department. Marcus thought for a moment. I want other kids to be safe, and I don't want any more dogs to get hurt. Derek put his arm around his son's shoulders. These changes will help make that happen. After thinking it over, they decided to accept the settlement. Ms. Taylor would handle the final details. At home that evening, Marcus helped Max into the backyard. The dog's special wheelchair allowed him to move around, though he was slower than before. Max could still chase a ball, but he couldn't jump or run like he used to. Derek watched from the window as his son gently threw a ball for Max. The past 3 months had been hard on both of them. Marcus had nightmares for weeks after the shooting. He was nervous around police cars, and he didn't play in the front yard anymore. But there were also signs of healing. Marcus had started talking to a counselor who helped children deal with trauma. He had joined a youth group that worked on community safety. And most importantly, he and Max were still together. Derek's phone rang. It was his boss at the FBI. How did the meeting with the lawyers go? Deputy Director Williams asked. We're accepting the settlement, Derek said. The department is agreeing to make some important changes. Good, Williams said. And I have some news for you. The community safety program you proposed has been approved. The FBI will work with local police departments to improve training and community relations. Derek smiled. After everything that had happened, something positive was coming out of it. The program would help police officers understand the communities they serve better. Later that night, as Derek tucked Marcus into bed, his son asked a question. Dad, do you think things will get better now? Derek sat on the edge of the bed. I think they can get better. The changes at the police department will help, and there are good people working to make things right. Marcus nodded. I'm going to be one of those people when I grow up. I want to help make sure everybody feels safe in their neighborhood." Derek felt a surge of pride. His son had been through something terrible, but it hadn't broken his spirit. In his special bed beside Marcus's, Max made a small sound and wagged his tail. The dog would never be the same as before, but he was adapting to his new life. Just like Marcus. Change was happening, slowly but surely. And the Johnson family was part of making that change happen. 1 year had passed since the day Max was shot. It was a warm summer day, just like that day had been. But many things were different now. The Johnson family was hosting a community gathering in a local park. There were tables with food, music playing, and children running around. Signs hung from the trees that said, "Community Safety Day" and "Pause for Peace." Derek stood on a small stage, speaking to the crowd of about 200 people. He wore casual clothes instead of his FBI suit. "Thank you all for coming today," he said. "1 year ago, our family went through something very difficult. But today isn't about looking back at the bad things. It's about moving forward together." Marcus sat in the front row, with Max beside him. The dog still used his wheeled harness to help him walk, but he had gotten very good at moving around with it. Max's tail wagged as he watched Derek speak. "Today we're celebrating the changes that have happened in our city," Derek continued. "All police officers now wear body cameras. They receive better training on community relations. And most importantly, they're getting to know the neighborhoods they serve." Several police officers stood in the crowd, nodding as Derek spoke. They were part of the new community engagement program that Derek had helped create. Each week, they spent time meeting residents and learning about the community. "And we're also celebrating Max," Derek said with a smile, "the hero dog who has inspired so many people." The crowd clapped and cheered. In the past year, Max had become something of a local celebrity. His story had led to new laws about police treatment of pets and better training for officers on dealing with animals. After Derek finished speaking, Marcus came up to the stage. He was taller now, and his voice was a bit deeper. At 13, he was growing up quickly. "My dog Max can't run like he used to," Marcus said to the crowd. "But he still likes to play and have fun, and he helps other kids who are scared or sad." The crowd smiled as Marcus explained. Twice a month, he and Max visited a children's hospital and a center for kids who had experienced trauma. The children loved petting Max and hearing his story. "Max teaches us that even when bad things happen, we can still be happy and help others," Marcus said. As the event continued, a man approached Derek. He looked nervous and uncomfortable. It was Pete Reynolds, the former police officer who had shot Max. "Mr. Johnson," Reynolds said quietly, "I wasn't sure if I should come today, but I needed to say something to you and your son." Derek was surprised to see him. "What is it?" "I want to apologize," Reynolds said. "I made a terrible mistake that day. I've thought about it every day since then." Derek studied the man's face. Reynolds looked different now. Older, somehow. More serious. "Are you working as a police officer somewhere else?" Derek asked. Reynolds shook his head. "No. I'm going to school now, studying social work. I want to help build better relationships between communities and the police." Derek nodded slowly. "I appreciate you coming here today. It takes courage to face your mistakes." Later, Reynolds spoke briefly with Marcus too. The boy was cautious but listened as the former officer apologized to him and to Max. As the sun began to set, the event wound down. Families gathered their things and headed home. Marcus and Derek walked slowly through the park with Max rolling between them. "Do you think Officer Reynolds really changed?" Marcus asked his father. "I think he's trying," Derek said. "Sometimes it takes a big mistake to make someone see the truth." Marcus thought about this as they walked. "I'm glad we did this event today. I think Mom would be proud of us." Derek put his arm around his son's shoulders. "She definitely would be." They stopped at the top of a small hill, looking out over their city as the streetlights began to come on. Despite everything that had happened, they had found a way to make things better, not just for themselves, but for many others too. Max made a small barking sound, as if agreeing with this thought. His tail wagged as he looked up at Marcus and Derek, the family that had helped him heal, just as he had helped them.